Right, so the hydraulic system quickly. Yeah, it shows perfect. So yeah, you got the left system here. I'm kind of pointing out in the with the mouse. The center system and the right system. The left system, there's an engine pump and there's an electric pump. The engine pump runs basically along with the engine, so when the engine is running, then the pump is running, and when the engine is off, then the pump is off. And the switch actually remains in the on position all the time because it's dependent on the engine running or not. And then the electric pump here, there's this button there. During the flight, or it's in the auto position, or otherwise on the ground when the aircraft is not the engines are not running and the aircraft is not moving, then it goes back to off. We'll put it on if maybe there's an issue with the auto function, but this is all kind of working automatically, so that's why it goes onto the auto function. Then for the center system, it's a little bit a different system. The center 1 and center 2 pumps here are electric, so those 2 pumps, they're not engine pumps. So yeah, they run electrically, and then you've got 2 air pumps which are run with bleed. So the RC1 and the RC2 for the center system, and then for the right system, it's again an engine pump, an engine-driven pump, and an electric pump. So same thing, the electric pump only comes on when there's a demand on the system. So the left system there kind of controls the left reversers, the flight controls. The center system has quite a lot. You can see nose gear and steering, alternate reserve brakes, the flaps, main gear and steering, and some more flight controls. And then the right system controls normal brakes, right reverse, sorry, and some more flight controls. So for the flight controls, for example, there's a lot of redundancy, because you see that each single system controls different parts of the flight control system. So the ailerons, flaprons, rudder, all the flight controls basically. So yeah, there's a lot of redundancy. The flaps are mainly controlled by the center system. The first way that the flaps are controlled is of course here through the hydraulic system, but if the hydraulic system C fails, then we can control also the flaps electrically, and you can do first the flap system will switch to the electric way automatically, and then if that fails, there's the third option, which is the alternate flap system here, which would also move the flaps electrically, but with a different system, which actually doesn't offer much control. If you extend the flaps, then they'll run as long as you hold the button. So it's not a very good system actually. So yeah, the hydraulic system is quite complex, you know. I don't think we can see it here with the flight control synaptic. For the moment, no, because each control surface here kind of is there's actually some sort of a table or some sort of schematic in the manual where they show you the different hydraulic systems and the different control actuators controlling the different panels here, the ailerons, the elevator, the rudder, and there's a lot of redundancy basically. You know, each control surface is controlled by 2 hydraulic systems, and also a couple of actuators. So it's quite complex, and as I said, a lot of redundancy as well. So for the aircraft to become totally uncontrollable, then it needs to be a really bad day, because otherwise you might lose one or two control surfaces, but I mean the aircraft will be largely controllable even if you lose one or two. Hey, my PPL, how are you doing? So yeah, it's quite fascinating. We don't actually know too much about the systems. I think we just know, the basics, and I think it's actually in Boeing philosophy not to tell the pilots like too much into the systems. We're not like systems engineers, or we don't have we certainly don't have the knowledge that engineers would have on the systems. Far from it. I think we just know the basics, and I think that's the way they want us to kind of operate. Boeing doesn't want us to be engineers of the hydraulic system and all that stuff. We just kind of need to know the basics. Yeah, the 300 is I find it's a little bit more stable, the 200, because it's shorter but still has those massive engines. I mean, it is stable, but I find it's kind of handling a little bit differently. It's certainly overpowered, above all if it's not full of passengers and fuel. So if you do a shorter flight on a 200, then it's quite overpowered, and yeah, it doesn't handle the same way. I do prefer the 300ER, I have to say. Yeah, no, I do fly both 200 and 300, yeah. And I do prefer the 300ER, definitely. I just find it's more stable. What is interesting is that the 300ER and the 200 LR in particular are exactly the same wingspan, but the aircraft, the 200 LR is shorter, and they have almost similar engines. So for an aircraft which is a little bit smaller, but has the same wingspan and it's got like almost the same engines, then you can feel that there's gonna be a kind of difference in the handling, in the performance. Yeah, all the 777s are the same type rating. Yeah. So from the old 200, which is probably now like a classic, 200ER, 200LR, 300, 300ER, and 777 freighter as well. All same type rating. Mind you, I mean, from what I understand, like companies like Ryanair would ask you to pay for the type rating. Nowadays, the type rating for Ryanair is probably in the region of about 30,000 euros. So, yeah, that's a lot of money for just type rating, and possibly the base training as well, just for you to basically get the license. I think more or less all the jet type ratings are in this kind of 5-figure sum. That's why it's I've said on previous occasions, it's a good thing if you can get into a cadet scheme to start your career, or you can get into a company that would kind of at least bond you for the training, but pay for the training yourself, so that you don't have to pay yourself. Because when you have to kind of buy your job by buying up front the type rating, it's a little bit more difficult. Yeah. Right, so destination weather 040 at 11, 1016. Cool. It's nice in Frankfurt as well, just maybe a little bit more cloud. Excellent. It is a lot of money, there's no question about that. There's a lot of money to get those type ratings. I think personally, but that's only my opinion. I think to get a type rating without having the prospect of a job afterwards, to get a type rating just to have like an extra bit in your CV, I think it's not ideal, to say the least. I think you take a bit of a risk, because then if you buy like basically a type rating and then you don't get a job after that, you've got to apply very often. They will ask you for experience on type, maybe 500 hours on type or something. If you just buy the type rating, you're never gonna get the experience, and then you find yourself with a type rating which a year after needs to be renewed, so you have to buy again a couple of sessions in the sim. Maybe you kind of forgo a little bit how it works and all that stuff, and it kind of becomes quite complicated. So yeah, for me that's the more risky options, really. If they ask you, as I was saying earlier on, to pay yourself for the type rating up front, but then you're gonna get a job, or at least once the training is complete, then they'll offer you a job. You can consider that, but paying up front for a type rating and then you still have to apply for a job, or go on the market and send CVs and stuff like that, I think that's a little bit more risky. But as I said, it's only my opinion. Approach, if there's a choice, going into the reverse alphabetical order. And on this we said the Unoko 07 November, I think. Okay, we'll see how it works out. There might be a discontinuity. No, beautiful. So from Unoko we go to Ipville, Manuv, Ramob. And to be honest, I feel like taking a bit of a shortcut there. 444 waypoint, maybe after the 431. Where's the 431? Yeah, to kind of shortcut the arrival a little bit. I'll cheat a little bit, but yeah, I'll do that. Cool. Actually, it wants me to descend already. Oh no, well, soon. Cool. And then for the ILS, 07 left. Hopefully it's in the scenery, but I think it is. Otherwise, I'll go around and try one of the other runways. So from not go and to the runway, that's correct, 5,000 feet, and in case of a missed approach, to Thai, 5,000 feet. Yeah, okay, cool. Obviously I'm going a little bit quicker than what I would do in real, because I mean in real I've got to pay a little bit more attention here, although, like, I'm trying to be realistic, but at the same time don't want to be pedantic about things here. Supposed to have fun as well, and actually I like to do what I'm doing here. It's quite good fun. for the minima, though, I have to look for the actual chart because, as you know, the Aivlasoft EFB doesn't have the proper minima. To be naval, so I need to reset this one, then press the altitude intervention to start the descent. So 520 set. And the VRF, we're gonna be landing with 8.5 tons, and the zero fuel weight was 226. So 226 and 8.5, that's gonna be 234.5 plus 0.3 and 234.8. So 234.8 is the anticipated landing weight, 3144. Descent checklist.
Stand by. Descent checklist. Recall. Checked. Notes.
Checked.
Auto brake level 2. Landing data.
VRF is 144, minimums 520 feet. VRF is 144, minimums 520 feet.
VREF 144, minimums 520 feet. Approach briefing.
Completed.
Descent checklist complete.
Seatbelt sign on.
Seatbelt signs coming on.
Cool. 25,000 feet, we can put the seatbelt sign on in the descent. So just a tiny bit high for the moment on the VNAV. So the same thing I was saying as last time. Initially at higher levels, then use VNAV because it's gonna kind of get you in a more correct position, and it's gonna be easier to calculate the descent with VNAV initially. But then as you get lower and there might be changes to the arrival route or radar vectors, shortcuts, all that stuff, or you want to adjust your continuous descent approach, then flight level change and vertical speed are better modes. Right, so help a little bit with the speed brakes. Go a shortcut on the keyboard, so I'm going full speed brakes, otherwise you could only, I think with the mouse you can kind of give partial speed brakes, but with the joystick it's either like no speed brakes or otherwise full speed brakes to help catch up with the and then it kind of stows also the speed brake like straight away, whereas you have to be kind of smooth when you stow the speed brakes. You can't stow the speed brakes as what happened here, and it just goes from like the up position all the way back down in like 1 second. Do it like too violently like that. That's not the way to stow the speed brake, but that's also like a simulation thing. So you can see I'm always trying to match the current track of the aircraft with the track bug there, and try always to match the track. That's like a good thing to do. Above all, if after like further down on the arrival, then you get radar vectors and things. Then if you get radar vectors because it's heading, then you need to change the reference bug there to heading. But when you're flying in LNAV, then you follow a track, so you leave the reference bug here as track, and then follow kind of match the track with the bug. It's not doing a fantastic job as tracking this thing. I'll reset the LNAV, hopefully I'll go further down the arrival to try to smooth it out a little bit, because it's been doing kind of zigzags a little bit. You can see I've already covered probably around 300 miles or something, and it goes very quick on a short sector like that, a very short cruise, and then you have to kind of set it up and descend again. And in the meantime, while you are like doing all these things, you're flying at 800, 900 kilometers per hour, and yeah, then you wake up, well, not wake up, so to speak, you wake up like 10 minutes later, and it's like, oh, you know, we've already flown all that distance. You just kind of just take it for granted. Actually, it's amazing. Right, so we'll go down to 5,000 feet and actually go to the DF. We can go to the DF44, it's gonna be a straight line, then to the 454, and then join the localizer. So let's do that. 444. So yeah, so when you fly yourself, obviously you're gonna be a little bit high. When you fly yourself, there's no ATC, all those trombone arrivals or like snake arrivals, where it's like those RNAV transitions, and you kind of do a lot of zigzags. You don't need to do all that, because in real, most of the time, if the traffic situation is not too heavy, then they will give you shortcuts and you wouldn't fly that whole arrival. Yeah, you just can kind of give yourself shortcuts, definitely. Yeah, true, that's true. Transition altitude, altimeters reset 1016. Transition level, altimeters 1016.
1016 set.
So yeah, so as you can see there, instead of doing this long transition and kind of do a lot of zigzags and stuff from ram up there, you can cut and then maybe establish on the ILS here. You don't need to fly that big loop thing, so because I'm sure that's what ATC will do. Maybe they will give you a little vector like this, maybe bring you back around, otherwise maybe turn you a little bit more to the right, of course, there, and then bring you, but they wouldn't let you do all this thing like that. That's totally unnecessary, really. It's just like a procedure in case there's a lot of traffic, and then they can sequence the traffic in a certain way, and it helps them.
Flight
But
level 100.
you would never fly that.
Cabin crew, prepare for landing.
The 300 is category D, and that's correct. The freighter is category D as well. But category D, the freighter is category D for circling, I think. But for the approach, it's actually category C. 200, otherwise normal 200 category C, that's correct, yeah. more speed brakes again. Gonna go to Frankfurt, going to Bravo. Bravo 28. Right, so we're gonna establish on the LS with the LNAV, and then I'll engage the localizer. We're still quite far. Nice, losing the VNAV actually, so I'll go flight level change. And I don't see the localizer signal actually yet, so I'll keep the LNAV. And now I can go vertical speed. Oops. And reduce the vertical speed. For takeoff, we'll use most of the times flaps 5, sometimes 15. More rarely 20. Yeah, speed brakes. So yeah, for takeoff, flaps 5, flaps 15, sometimes 20 if it's a short runway.
1,000 feet to level off.
Yeah, category D and super is more like a wake turbulence category. The way it's categorized is more like wake turbulence. So super, heavy, medium and light, these are the wake turbulence categories. Category D is more to do with the approach speed. So Cat C like up to VRF I think is a 149, and Cat D above 149, which can also apply to the circling and stuff. I'll have to look at these categories again. Yeah, it's possible that they always keep flaps 15. It depends on the airline, possibly. Yeah. Right, so we got out. Come back on the speed a little bit. We're still about 20 miles out. There should be a localizer, but I'll wait until I panic. Otherwise, I'll reset another approach. I do think I've got the runway in this scenery. Good God. We'll see. This doesn't look very good on the scenery. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, well. No. It doesn't look like it's gonna work. I'm not even sure if I've got the runway in the scenery. No, I do have a runway. So why is there no ILS? Because there's no and when you look at the standby ADI, there's nothing there either. Uh-oh. This is pure live stuff. I didn't check the scenery. I assumed wrongly that everything would be in order. It's a customized AFCAD once again, but there's no ILS on this side. Though. So we'll follow the LNAV, do the kind of missed approach, and I'll reset runway 07 right this time. Hopefully, let me have a look first to make sure that there's, yeah, there should be a runway in the scenery. 7 right. Maybe it's a different frequency in the scenery and in real. Let me take track select and we'll execute that. Take it from ROPSA. Yeah, we've got the ILS indication, and 07 right is from ROPSA, yeah. Inbound 067 as well. Okay, so no sweat, we'll just reset it. It's just a simulator little issue. We'll do, obviously I'll have to reposition. So heading select, 5,000 feet, left turn to kind of come round. And if there was an issue with the ILS and we were losing the signal like that in real or whatever, that's what I would have to do, kind of stop the approach, reset everything and try again. Keep an eye on the fuel, but the fuel is good still, so no issues there. The minima are now 530 still. Oh no, 530, it's changed. It's only 10 feet, but and the rest is the same really. So we'll just come round. You can see there in red the aircraft symbol. I'll just reposition towards ROPSA there for the ILS 07 right. Little view of Frankfurt. So yeah, these things can happen, just no big deal. That's pure life, so oh no, you wouldn't. If something like that happened, then the ILS was coming off the air when you were expecting to get established, and at the last minute it comes off the air, and then you cannot do the ILS. And for example, the weather is bad, and you can't really kind of fly a visual approach and improvise. No, you wouldn't fly manually, because when you fly manually, then you concentrate a little bit more on the flying, and then you lose a little bit the bigger picture. So you can keep the automatics like that and kind of keep the autopilot engaged, and it kind of gives you more capacity to manage the whole thing. Flaps 1. Approach checklist.
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
1016 set.
1016. Approach checklist complete.
Flaps 1.
Speed check flaps 1.
So now that I want a smooth and slow descent to 4,000 feet for the platform at ROPSA, then vertical speed is a good mode. Fly level change, it's gonna take me down to 4,000 feet maybe a little bit too quickly, whereas vertical speed I can control with about 500 feet per minute. It's a little bit better. Alright, we'll go. But even 500 feet per minute there is gonna be too much. I'm gonna level off before I get to ROPSA. Flaps 5.
Speed check flaps 5.
Ah, the joys. So about 2 miles before the extended center line, so I'll take a cut on the ILS by 095, about 30-degree cut. The sensing is correct there. We've got the two lozenges on the right side, so that's where the localizer is in relation to the aircraft. Both localizer and yeah, I guess the glide slope as well. So not so much the glide slope actually, only the localizer. So I can arm the approach mode. We've got localizer and glide slope armed in white, and heading select and vertical speed, which are the current modes. So the localizer is alive. It's moving in. Cabin is ready. Yes, Captain UK. And then the localizer is captured once the localizer is more or less centered. Now we'll call glide slope alive when the lozenge fills up here. Now we are in alt mode, so we'll maintain 4,000 feet until the glide slope is captured. We're still good on fuel, so there's no worries. Reserve is 6.2, so yeah, no worries at all. Flaps 15.
Speed check, flaps 15.
The missed approach here is 5,000 feet to red as well. That seems to be correct according to the chart here. We're just about to intercept the glide slope. That's it, glide slope capture. We'll set straight away the missed approach altitude, which is 5,000 feet. And now the aircraft is coupled with the ILS, so with the localizer laterally and with the glide slope vertically. So on this ILS, there's no DME, so a way to kind of look at your distance. You can look at the navigation display. For the moment, you don't see the runway symbol at the top here, so you can assume you're still around at least 10 miles. You can look at the FMC as well. You've got 1 mile to the FF07 right, and then another 8 miles. So currently about 9 miles out. That's a way to kind of try to work it out. Gear down.
Gear down.
Flaps 20.
Speed check, flaps 20.
Radio altimeter.
So at this stage you need to wait for the landing gear to show green. If you extend flaps to 30 while the gear is
Cabin
still
crew,
in
take your
transit,
seats.
you're gonna get a config warning, so you need to make sure that the gear is down before you extend the landing flaps. Flaps 30.
Speed check, flaps 30.
Because that's something I've seen in a lot of people flying. They're going, oh, flaps 30, and then you get the config warning, so you need to wait for the gear to be down. Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Landing checklist complete.
Checklist complete. So yeah, the runway 07 left is here. So it is in the scenery, but yeah, there's no ILS in the scenery, so what to do? Right, let's fly manually a little bit. Everything is settled. Flight director. Hardly any wind. That's good. I've got no excuses.
Approach stable.
1,000.
Now that fly manually, the FBW and the fly-by-wire trim indication is showing on the PFD. It's in the middle of the speed cursor there. You can just about make it out.
Approaching runways.
Yeah, and the RAS system doesn't know about the runway. I should say approaching runway 07, right? And it's not really said anything. Feels like there's a few
500.
little bumps on the approach simulated. Nothing too nasty, but it kind of moves around a little bit.
Plus 100.
Approaching minimums.
Decision height.
Minimums.
Landing.
Checked.
$50, 30, 20, 10.
Speed brakes up. Reversers normal.
Manual
60
braking.
knots. Check.
Probably planted it a little bit there, but this is only a game, well, a game, so to speak. All right. We'll vacate here. Welcome to Frankfurt. So a bit like the other day in LA, you have to cross the inner runway here. So before crossing, of course, you need a clearance. You can't just land and then taxi back and go to the gate and crossing an active runway just like that. Oops, I'm looking at the EFB there. Right, so I think the gate was Bravo 28. I think I can see it here on the display. So I might actually cross here at Mike 14. Put the display again. Okay to clean up.
Check.
Right, so that looks like the holding point. There's nobody, so we're clear to cross. So to cross a runway, normally we'll put the strobe lights back on, just to be more visible.
25 right.
Above all, at night, of course, during the day, the strobes are not so visible. But yeah, a good landing is a landing you can walk away from. That's what they say. Bravo 28. Okay, it's in the corner there. Cool. So I'll continue straight on November 5, then turn right on November. It's clear on the left, it's clear on the right. We do have after landing checklist, which is not here in the PMDG 777. But it helps kind of after you do the after landing flow to make sure you've not left anything on, like the lights, or you forgot to retract the flaps or whatever. We kind of act as a checklist, but just like also as to kind of aide mémoire, so to speak. So it's quite good. So here we are. Turn right here on November. Like always, need to add a little bit of thrust. Yeah, I did check the gate was working and was suitable, but I did assume that the ILS would be on, and it doesn't seem to be. So at least it kind of introduced a little event, a little something unexpected. So that was good. All right, so that's Bravo 26. The APU is running now. Getting on stand with FS correction, and with GS6 is a little bit gimmicky, but it's just alright. So that's gonna be Bravo 28. Oh, it's more than 90-degree turn to get on stand. Here's the line. In real, it's not a problem because with the tiller it's got quite a big range, so you can turn quite easily, but with this thing today it might be a little bit more difficult. Please don't stop in the turn. Lights and doors.
Cabin crew disarm doors and cross-check.
Right, yeah, then I get too close, the view is not good, I'm not gonna bother that much. That will do. I maybe need to adjust the views, but it's not that easy actually. So anyway, the parking brake is set, and the APU is running. And then it's actually disarm one of the doors automatically, but it's not disarm the others. So to keep in line with what I'm usually doing, need to see that the doors are disarmed. The last one is not. Now the doors are manual, so yeah, the seatbelt sign can come off. And then I'll switch off the flight director, maybe set this one to 100. Kind of switch off the approach button there on the standby DI. FMC can go back to the addon page. Can switch off the minima there on the barrow. Reset the clock. That's pretty much it. Do the shutdown checklist. The
I'm ready for the
shutdown
checklist.
checklist here kind of hangs at parking brakes, so I'm not gonna do it. And that's it. Welcome to Frankfurt. We'll have a little look outside like always. So yeah, that's custom. I've got actually the scenery is quite decent. It kind of shows all the buildings and it's not looking too shabby. It's obviously not like commercial scenery, but it shows the airport the way it is in real pretty much. So that's good enough for me. A little bit on this side. Quite a big airport, of course, in Frankfurt. Hey, thanks, Captain Yukim. So yeah, here we are, sunny Frankfurt today, just a few clouds around. Temperature was about 16 degrees or something. Cool. That's it, folks. So that was yeah, continuation of the little tour around Europe to also say thank you to all the followers on the YouTube channel across various countries in Europe like UK, Germany, France, the Netherlands. So I'll try to be back on another European flight, a bit of a fictional flight, but nonetheless, it's quite nice.